This is Lee Ridley. I was lucky enough to achieve 2 promotions with Scunthorpe United, but nothing compares to the joy I experience when listening to the Iron Hour podcast.
Iron fans, welcome to another episode of the Iron Hour podcast. As always, I'm your host, Barry. This week, we review the Fans Forum on Wednesday night. We talk about the charity game for Evie and Ward 5 at Sheffield Children's Hospital. We have our usual Spy in the Camp segment. We look ahead to the Chester FC game, and hopefully we'll have time for Hero, Idiot and Moment of the Week and some other chat. So I'm pleased to say I'm joined this week by 2 of my usual panellists. I've got published author Max Bell.
Evening, Barry, you on?
I'm very well, thank you. And Mr. Iron Army himself, Gareth Holden. Hi, Gaz.
Hello. It's good to be here.
He looks like he's in a gym or something.
He does.
It's definitely not lockers. It's the kitchen. It's the kitchen. I'm in the kitchen.
Muscles bursting out of that shirt. Look at him.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Right, so I thought we'd kick off by talking about the Fans Forum on Wednesday evening. I listened on the radio. Gareth, you was there. What was the atmosphere like in person?
It was all right. It was just a fans forum, really. There was nothing to. No one got angry or anything like that. Everyone was happy to be there. The questions were relatively easy, as I'm sure those that listened, heard, found out. So there was nothing really pressing. It was just a fans forum with no real issues.
I think it's difficult sometimes to gauge what the atmosphere in the room's like if you're listening on the radio. So I myself and a couple of other people who listened have kind of commented that Butler maybe got a little bit sassy at one point when asked about recent performances. And I think his actual quote was, "I'm going to come back at you here." And then spent kind of the next 10, 20 seconds kind of, standing his ground, giving a little bit back.
I guess, yeah, you've got 20. You don't want to hear criticism, whatever you're doing. And it's, people take it differently. I think he dealt with it well. And, I think the guy that he was speaking to was happy with it. I don't think there was anything really untoward. But I guess, it's like anyone. If you get criticism of any form, you try and bite it back a little bit. So, but yeah, nothing in it.
And Max, one thing that came out of the forum, Gareth very kindly actually asked about the academy and plans for junior football. A little bit of a vague answer. There was certainly a retort that there were plans in the pipeline, but nothing to be confirmed at this point. For you, how important is it to see the return of junior football in some guys?
Yeah, I think it's a medium-term goal. Obviously, plans like that are conditional on funding. They're conditional on what league we're in, on what kind of model they can operate. I would say that so far during the new ownership, obviously we've had just over a year so far. They've had quite a lot of buy-in from the local community, and to bring in something like this, particularly at this level, or heaven forbid in the next 2 to 3 years in the National League, that's something that we would need. Real buy-in from the community, not just the parents, but the kids, the fans, any kind of coaches they would get in. And I wonder as well as to whether or not it might be a transition. Do you start with some of the older age groups? Do you then try and work down? Do you run it as a trial for a year or two? Because that funding matters, especially when all the work has gone on in the background to reduce the debt, trying to make sure that they then don't swing too far with expenditure on what could be a long-term project. But I'm confident they'll weigh up the pros and cons before making any decision on that.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I've always said actually is being out of the Football League, believe it or not, gives you a little bit of freedom with your junior football. Because whilst you're an academy, an EFL academy, you are bound by financial restrictions in as much as, yes, you get your funding, but you are restricted in terms of sponsorship and other ways to generate income. You certainly can't charge subs. But actually having some kind of junior structure that's outside of that academy status gives you that freedom to use it to generate income. Because what you find with that funding is it often gets absorbed into other things, like kit man, paying for the kit man and other kind of like miscellaneous costs. So actually for me, you get that financial independence and freedom. So I'm glad to see that they're looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, with that kind of freedom comes opportunities, but it also comes with risks. When we talk about the buy-in from the community, sponsorship is a really, really big part of that. And, you don't want to be in a position where you go out to kids and, try and do something, particularly at a young age, and if you're recruiting under sevens, under eights, for example, and then get 2 years down the line and then have to go, oh bugger, this hasn't worked, off you all sod again. I think we've been burned by that. So from my perspective, I'd be really looking for, if they did do something like that, and as you say, it was a very good question from Gareth at the fans forum. If you're going to do something like that, if you're going to bring it back, it has to be for the long haul. You have to be ready for that. But that's tough.
Absolutely. Gareth, once the kind of the session finished, the Humberside session finished, and there was more of a casual atmosphere to the fans forum. Was there anything else that came out of that? Anything else fans should know about?
Not that I can recall. There was talk of the new CEO. Obviously going to come in and help Michelle out, take the burden off her a little. I can't think of anything else that jumped out, I'll be honest. Right. I was stood talking with Pete at the back, as you do. So yeah, I can't really think of anything else that jumped out at me that I can recall.
No. Do you have a nice tea last night? Good meal after the forum? Or?
It was all right, yeah, thanks. Yeah.
I'll just checking you was you had nourishment.
Yes, I did. It was very nice, thank you.
Good, just checking. Okay, so
can I just say something? I wasn't here last week, and I've not seen you since last week, but your hair looks really nice.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Gareth. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And we haven't prepped that. Haven't messaged Gareth saying, please mention the hair,
Okay. I'll take that.
That's why he's
I'll take it.
That's why he's the people's princess. Moments like that.
I'll take it. I'll also like to point out to the Iron Universe that I wasn't the one sucking up to the higher ups yesterday asking for a curry after the fans forum. But hey, who am I to judge Gareth?
I got invited along.
Yeah, well, that's because you're everybody's favourite. Right, so that wraps up the fans forum. Let's quickly move on now to the charity game on Saturday. Rail so good, Gareth.
Yeah, very good. Well, it was at the end of the day, it was for raising money, regardless of the result. And but no, it was just good to get together again as the team and play another charity game, and just have a fun evening, and and see some quality on the pitch.
Not from us. I'll tell you what, there's some pesky person going around writing notes on cars, Gareth. I don't know if you caught any of that or.
I did find a note on my car. I didn't know if it was somebody's phone number or not at first. I thought, someone left the phone number, but no, I won't.
I don't know who left that note on your car, Gareth.
No, me neither. Although it was a barber's address.
Hey, there he is, the Gareth we all know and love. The easiest jokes are the best ones.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to make a joke about you. That would be obvious because it's not fair, is it?
Carry on.
No, I won't. Right, so let's move on then. Before we do, actually, Max, have you anything to say about the game on Saturday?
I was going to say, that's ruthless. I mean, I know I consider the penalty, but there's would have been a bit harsh if you totally run off with it. I was just going to say a massive effort from everybody. It was nearly £3,000 raised in total. We all went for a drink in the clubhouse at Bottisford afterwards. You were getting the crowd going, Barry. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Go on, you're looking shy now. You did, didn't you?
You're in the game or afterwards?
Oh, during the game when you're getting.
Listen, the fans thought they were funny, didn't they? It's right, giving me and you stick, so I've just turned on you, chucked you under the bus. I never love that. Then Max is getting everything. At one point, Max shouts over, "Barra, just stop it and concentrate on the game, for God's sake!" Like, what? What game?
So obviously the first half we're defending like the changing rooms end, if anybody's been to Pottsford. And there was half a dozen lads behind the goal. And in fairness, they were quite funny. Giving it a bit of stick. Gets to half time, and we're already feeling sorry for ourselves because we're 5-0 down. But I think, right, one upside. We're defending the other half now. Bastards switched ends, didn't they?
Little buggers.
But the second half was better. I thought we defended better. It was 2-1 in the second half, right until literally the last kick of the game. So yeah, I guess just a massive shout out to everyone, because there was a really good crowd. There must have been 150, 200 people.
Oh yeah, easily.
Like, and I know it helped. I know it helped with Scunny not having a game, but like, yeah, a great turnout, a huge amount of money raised. Thank you so much to everyone who came down, everyone who helped, everyone who played. And I think, I'm not saying that our first half performance wasn't great, but somebody, and I don't want to name them, promised at half time to make a 3-figure donation if we scored. They were so confident that we wouldn't. Then about 10 minutes into the second half, when Adams whipped a great crossing and Aiden sort of wrong-footed the keeper, gasps of shock from the Botsford Massive.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah,
at least we scored. At least we scored.
It was a good day. I could talk about it forever, but
I'm going to get the excuses in. We were missing good players, but I have got the shirt on that we used. So
brilliant. Up the Iron Hour podcast. Okay, so before we look ahead to Saturday's game against Chester FC, we have this. Right, well, the Spy in the Camp segment this week takes us all the way to the tip of Wales. Just inside England, we've got Chester FC fan Joe Brownbill. Pleased to join us today. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm all right, mate. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be on.
Well, not that happy, I'm sure, after the result on Saturday. You went 3-1 down at the hands of Scarborough and dumped out the FA Cup.
Indeed. In all fairness, it was quite good until the 25th minute. We were in complete control, to be fair, but just in like the space of 5 minutes, we went 2-0 down, because in all fairness, we've got a centre back who's about 35 who doesn't know how to track over the top through balls, so that just killed us really. And losing Cannell Rawlinson from a red card didn't help as well. That kind of unsettled the back line. But in all fairness, it wasn't a massive loss, to be honest, because it would have been nice to have a cup run, but you know, it's the backlog of games. It might not have helped. Like, it means we can just concentrate on the league now, in all fairness. But yeah, it's not that much of a loss, to be fair.
And looking at the FA Cup draw, obviously they've been drawn away at Burton Albion. So, like you say, probably not much lost in terms of an FA Cup progression then.
Definitely not now. Definitely not. In all fairness, the only team I would have liked to have got if we got through was Tranmere, coincidentally enough. But, you know, it's one of them. It's not, as you say, it's not a massive loss. I wouldn't really fancy going to Burton, to be perfectly honest. It's not the best. But, yeah, it's not that much of a loss, in all fairness.
Now, when the lads on the Iron Hour podcast did our pre-season predictions, 3 of the 4 had Chester as either winning the league or getting promoted. But it was a slow start for Chester, having lost the 2 games. But something of a recovery since then puts you in 5th position. How would you rate your league season so far?
In all fairness, considering the start we had, because like we were awful at Spennymoor, like we played to their game essentially instead of trying to stop them playing their game. So that's why we got battered. But considering we lost the first 2 games, we've picked up. I think we're in the league, we're unbeaten in, I think it's 10 or 11, something like that, something along those lines. That might be in all competitions, but you know, we've really picked up, and hopefully we can carry it on. Obviously, Hughes are not in the best form at the minute, I can't lie. So, in all fairness, we could have a chance, but it's at the end of the day, it's about if we turn up on the day, and sometimes we do tend not to turn up, aka Scarborough. But in all fairness, we do stand a decent chance, and we're at home as well. Should be a decent crowd, 3,500, 4,000. So we'll just see how it goes, in all fairness. But yeah, we do stand a chance, definitely.
For the uneducated amongst us, obviously, last couple of seasons you've been under some league restrictions with regards to your ground. Have they been lifted now?
I don't think they've been fully lifted yet. I think there is a little contingency there, but when we started, we had a capacity limit. I think it was about 2,600. And I think it's been lifted to about 4,000 now, which obviously isn't the whole capacity of the stadium. There is still a restriction there, but it has been increased. But in my opinion, it has been going on too long. Like this whole incident happened 2 years ago, and it has gone on too long, and we should be back to full capacity by now. But obviously, the external factors are making sure we're not. So it's one of them, really. But you know, it shouldn't affect it that much, in all fairness.
And you know what? That is a message and a warning for Iron fans, actually, because ourselves have something of crowd trouble on occasion, and the club are doing everything they can really to get to grips with the situation. But this serves as a warning. You can be living with the consequences almost 2 seasons after an incident. So I think Scunthorpe fans should probably heed the warning, if I'm being honest. Right, Chester FC, ex-league team, just like Scunthorpe. We've seen a different guys these days, but where do you kind of see Chester? Do you think this is your league? Do you think you should be above this level?
In terms of like where I'd like us to get to, I think with the fan ownership model, we're not going to get very far. And to be honest, you probably can see that over the past few years, we've not progressed at all. Like when we're in the National League, we peaked at that point. Like we weren't going to go any further. But I think if we wanted to progress into the Football League, I think we'd have to get an owner. We'd have to get an owner in, because at the end of the day, with our club, whatever the attendance is basically paying the players. It is paying the players. So if fans don't turn up, the players might not get paid. That's just how it is. So I think the crowds would need to increase, and we would need to bring in an owner if we really wanted to progress. But I see us not going any further than the National League, if I'm being brutally honest. But you never know. You never know what will happen.
Scunthorpe United so far this season at times have been quite rigid, if I'm being honest, with regards to their formation. We play a 3-5-2 almost under any circumstances, it seems. What's Chester been like this season? Have you been kind of horses for courses? Has it changed game by game, or have you been similar to Scunthorpe?
In all fairness, since we lost the first 2 games, we have been playing very consistently, but we do tend to have one game where we just don't turn up. Like we just get absolutely annihilated. And as I said before, we were in cruise control at one point in that Scarborough game until it got to about the 30th minute, and then Pollock decided to give away a really, really shabby penalty, which was a stonewall penalty, I won't lie. And but in all fairness, we were never going to get back into that game. We just resorted to lumping the ball, and it wasn't working at all. Like there's no point lumping the ball up to Willoughby. Like you need to give it to his feet so he can then supply others with service. Like it just wasn't working. So I think we just need to keep this consistency at a high. Otherwise, we're just going to go backwards, in my opinion. But yeah, you never know, though, do you?
In terms of star players, then, who's the one to watch? Who are the ones to watch on Saturday?
I've got 4. So obviously Kurt Willoughby, obviously you probably know what he's about. He has played at a higher level. He did well at York. Obviously he didn't get the rub of the green at Oldham last year when Oldham signed him permanently from us when he scored. I think it was 27 goals for us in one season. Obviously he didn't get played much. And straight after Willoughby signed for Oldham, they signed James Norwood, which was a bit puzzling to me, because if you're going to sign one of our star players, why would you sign another striker when you've already got about 3 strikers there? Which obviously didn't sit well with me. But in all fairness, you probably know what Willoughby's about anyway. And Tom Pear's another one with his hold-up play. He's very good at holding up the ball. He's got very nice touch. Nathan Woodthorpe, another one, our left back. You've probably seen the thing with the Scarborough fans of him running over and celebrating in front of him. That was quite funny.
You love it, don't you?
Yeah, that was great. To be honest, I missed that because I was too busy celebrating the goal. I just missed it completely. But it's another one. Probably say Declan Weeks as well. He's been a very consistent performer for us over the past few years. Done really well. Signed him from, I think it was Kidderminster originally. And obviously I didn't know much about him when he first came to us, but obviously he has progressed a lot and he's been one of our star players for the past 4 years. So mainly those 4, I would say. But there are a lot of standouts in our team and plenty of players that can proper perform on their day. But yeah, they're the obvious 4 for me.
And how do you fancy your chances ahead of this Saturday's game with Scunthorpe?
I think it's going to be a nice game in terms of like watching 2 teams that actually play nice football instead of this.
Ooh, I'm not sure about that.
No, let's not. It's like when we played Farsley, they just came to us and sat back for 95 minutes. And I understand with their situation, like they've got to pick up as many points as they possibly can because they can't play at home, can they? So I understand that to a certain extent, but hopefully it's just a good game of football between two, ex-league clubs. Hopefully, anyway.
And final question. So currently sitting fifth. Where do you think you'll finish this season? Gun to your head.
Being brutally honest, I think about third, really. I don't see us going for the league. I think yous will definitely win it. Because obviously, you look at your squad, like you might not be performing, but your squad is leaps ahead of ours still. We've got a good squad, but yours is still leaps ahead. So I reckon third is a realistic prediction for me.
Joe, thank you very much for your time today, and best of luck for the season after Saturday.
No worries. Hopefully I'll see you on Saturday.
Cheers, mate. Well, they were the thoughts there of Chester FC fan Joe Brownville, and some interesting thoughts actually there, Max. I mean, we think now we're approaching almost all the tickets sold, nearly 500 sold there. And Joe briefly mentioned there about the ground restrictions, which may or may not still be ongoing at Chester FC. And a real kind of message actually to Scunthorpe fans about, we've been talking about for a long time, the dangers of fans and troubles kind of spilling over onto the pitch, and the implications can last almost 2 years.
Yeah, there wasn't really any trouble at the game we had last season. I think Chester are in a little bit of a difficult situation because obviously the ground was right on the English-Welsh border. So when it comes to governing their police and everything like that, it's the Welsh local authority who govern them rather than the City of Chester Council. So look, it's been very difficult for them. I think it's a shame. I think the punishment, if that's the right word, is, in my personal view, from the outside looking in, been a bit excessive. I would hope that nothing similar would happen here. I appreciate that when they played in the playoffs. I wonder, so was it against Brackley?
It was.
I appreciate that there was a game that had a lot of trouble that has led to this, if you like, probably been the straw that broke the camel's back. But when you're down at this level, these games matter. This could very easily be a League Two or a National League game, certainly for older supporters. I mean, I can remember playing Chester in League Two in 04-05, and even though we got promoted, the Gits took 4 points off us. So hopefully we can get a good result on Saturday and come out with 3 points.
Gareth, one thing that really was interesting to me was him talking about the fan ownership, and actually there might be kind of, in his opinion, at the peak of where they can get to because of the fan ownership model. I guess that kind of got me thinking about how fortunate we are with our current owners, and actually the sky's the limit for us, I guess, in comparison.
Yeah. Well, in comparison, I think that's the thing, though. Is fan ownership keeps clubs going. It helps out massively, and so we're in a very fortunate position. We've got the owners in there, but the fans have helped out a lot in that as well. We might not own the club as such, but the fans have helped out massively. The whole community has helped out massively. So it's a different level, but the fans have still played a part.
And Gareth, just sticking with you, in a lot of ways, Chester's start to the season, the first 10 games, has been the opposite to us. They got off to a really sluggish start, having lost the first 2 games, and have recovered massively to be in fifth position as they sit currently, whereas we went off like a freight train, and actually recently performances, if I'm being honest, haven't been so good. How do you think that levels things up going into Saturday's game?
It's all about confidence, isn't it? At the last weekend, Chester lost against Scarborough. Yes, it was in the cup, but it was a heavy defeat, and from what I've been reading, they didn't play that great. Scarborough deserved it. It's not like Scarborough were just 10 times better or anything. They've just performed, and Chester never turned up from what I've read. So, hopefully, I'm kind of hoping that this break that we've had, this 2-week break, will pay dividends, and also I feel that playing one of the better teams will up our game, because recently we've looked a bit shady, and I'm just hoping that this 2-week break, we're playing a better team. I just hope that we put in a performance, and I think we will. I'm feeling confident, and it's probably going to come back and bite me saying that, but I'm feeling confident for it. It'll be good.
And Max, Gareth there just picked up on the 2-week break that we've had. Listening to Andy Butler's interview on Humberside earlier, he mentioned actually that he's used that period as a period of reflection, and he's had kind of like a 10-game review with each and every player, each and every kind of unit, so the defensive unit, the midfield, and so on. And he said it was really interesting for him to get that opportunity to look into the players' eyes. He didn't really give too much away about what was said, but how important do you think that will be, kind of just to take stock and review and see where we go from here?
I think it can be very important, not just for the players, but also the management. But look, Gareth is right. The proof is in the pudding, the performances. You can have the best review, the best training sessions, the best break possible. But if you're 2-0 down after 20 minutes, nobody will give two figs. And look, this is a big game off the back of some poor performances and some dropped points and some frustrations that the players need to be up for. If we're not at our best, we will go to Chester and we will get beat, and we will deserve to. Obviously, they beat us 2-0 there last season. A little bit of frustration insofar as we had a perfectly good goal disallowed at 0-0. But look, this isn't the Premier League. There is no VAR. It's the same for both teams. You can only play what's in front of you, and hopefully a fan won't have to run the line for the second half again.
Good point. Good point. Well made. Gareth, the big kind of fitness news coming out of the camp from Butler's interview earlier was Alfie Beeston is fine, back in training, back running this week, and is likely to feature this weekend. But Carlton going the other way, unfortunately, is still out. He is back to running, but will be another week before we see him back in action. It's been so frustrating for Carlton, hasn't it?
It has, yeah, definitely. I think, as a fan as well, it's been frustrating for us fans that we've not seen his full potential. And, even if he comes back next week, he's still going to have to get that match fitness. It's all right being back and fit, but that match fitness is a different thing. I speak like I've got experience, don't I? But I don't. But
well, you did your ACL, mate.
Well, I did, yeah.
You played on Saturday at Pottersford.
Well, I went on the pitch.
Well, yeah, he was on the pitch. Yeah, Christ, Max, let's not take the piss, mate.
They got nearly as far in the FA Cup as we did.
Very true. I hope you mean Bottisford, not Rail so bad.
Or Rail so good.
Correct.
But no, he's been a big miss, and it will be very frustrating for him as well. He wants to get on the pitch, he wants to show us what he can do, and to not have that opportunity as such for injury. It's just, hopefully he's not rushed back and it's cleared up fully, and we see the best of him in the next 35 games after Chester.
And Gareth, just looking ahead to Saturday's game, then, gun to your head, how do you think we'll get on?
We're going to win.
Score?
Gun to my head. I just feel that this break will have done us good, give us time to rest and recuperate, and just like I say, they've had a reflection, they've looked at where things have gone wrong, right, and we're playing one of the better teams, no disrespect to everyone else, but I just feel that we'll be up for it more. I don't know why that is. I just feel it brings the best out in us, playing a team that, plays well as well. So win.
And scoreline?
2-1.
2-1 Scunny. Yeah, I'm going 3-1 Iron. Max, do you share our optimism?
No. I will go for a scrappy 1-1, because I think if the game is level with 15 to 20 minutes to go, I could see maybe one or both sides settling. It wouldn't be the worst result in the world if we did go to Chester and get something. It would be an improvement on last season. It's the performances before that have been frustrating for us. So I'll go for 1-1. Danny Whitehall header.
Can I just say as well, when you say with like 15, 20 minutes left, and if it's 1-1, is that when we bring Will Evans on?
Yeah.
In front of the back four.
No, to be fair, Butler likes Boyce up top for our last 10, 15. I mean, didn't he play basically the second half away at Newcastle Town? Didn't he play that up front?
Up top, got pulled top. Yeah, but if we're trying to defend a 1-1, you're going to bring Evans on it. He's just sit there and,
Marco will love that. I can't wait.
He will.
Right, and fans, as you've probably noticed, Gareth has disappeared now. He's had to rush off to work. Hopefully we won't hear him pipping his horn this week, Max. So, looking ahead to Saturday then, we talked briefly there about the news in terms of available players, and actually other than Carlton, it's a fully fit squad. How would you shape up on Saturday?
So I hope that we have learned the lessons of previous games. I'm not convinced that Calvin is a striker. I'm not really convinced that Alfie Beeston is a striker either, but Butler certainly seems to be persevering with that one. I think he will set up with 5 at the back. He's clearly committed to the system, but we're going away from home to a good side, and I want us to be flexible enough and have a plan B, because there have been too many games this season where if a side defends the long ball well, defends the long throw well, or Danny Whitehall's maybe marked out of the game or just has an off night, there have been games where we haven't had a plan B, and I don't want that to be Chester on Saturday. I'd like to see creativity in the middle of the park, particularly if they've got 5 defenders behind them. Look, I hope Roberts is in midfield. In an ideal world, I'd love to see Alfred Beeston in midfield. I'm not sure that we will, but look, we'll see. It's a big game, but we still do have to be honest. We're only in mid-October. It's not season defining, not just yet.
And how do you think the game will be won and lost on Saturday? We've talked at length in the past about the points of difference being this season. Brad Nicholson's cross. Do you think it might come down to something like that, a set piece, or actually is it going to be the class? Is it going to be the quality that will be the difference on Saturday?
A bit of both. A good set piece delivery is a piece of quality. I think back to Scarborough, and there was really one way in which they particularly threatened us, which was the ball in behind into the channel between Nicholson and Denton, a wing back. They tried that ball 3 or 4 times, and a couple of times they really threatened. And then you are literally only one cut back, one finish, one really great cross. And that was basically what happened. They put a good ball into the back post. And, again, I think with the draw at home to Oxford City, they had 2 shots on target. They had a game plan, which was cross to the back post, 2 or 3 overload in there, and just hope that it drops for you. And they took the risk of when they got higher up the pitch that we might hit them on the break, but offensively, that was their game plan. What's going to be our equivalent of that? Is it just Nicholson's long throws? Is it a set piece? How are we looking at the Chester defence and going, right, we're going to break them down? Again, at home to Oxford, 2 real individual moments of quality from Cal Roberts should have won us that game. Can we rely on him or somebody similar to produce 1 or 2 moments of magic? Because as you say, that can be the difference, but I think you've got to have a plan about how you're going to produce them during periods of the game as well.
And as I was spying the camp, Joe mentioned just a few moments ago, they were put to the sword on the weekend at the hands of Scarborough, and obviously we've gone down to Scarborough this season and lost. Do you think we can read anything into that?
Yes and no, insofar as, look, if they'd won that game really convincingly, particularly off the back of us going to Scarborough and losing, you'd think, well, that's maybe a sign that they're playing well, they're full of confidence. But games, especially at this level, when they're tight, are defined by key moments. It's been a big break for us, as I think Butler was saying during the fans panel and when he was interviewed by BBC Radio Humberside, that he thinks it's been a productive one for us. I hope so. I really wouldn't read much into Chester going out in the FA Cup. Obviously, they might say the same about us going to Guiseley and playing quite crap, to be honest with you. So if we start the game well, if we've got a good shape out of possession, if we're often in threats going forward in open play, not just from set pieces, that'll be a good sign. I'm sure Chester fans will be wanting their team to do the same thing.
Absolutely. Right, I think that sums up the Chester preview as we look ahead to the weekend. It's just me and you, but we'll persist. We'll move on to our hero, idiot, and moment of the week. And for a change, I'll chip in with my opinion too. So no points. Yeah, well, you and about one other, my mum, have just cheered for the whole world. Right.
Well, we obviously very rarely get to quiz you on your hero, idiot, and moment of the week. So I would say that if any Iron fans listening or watching us particularly like Barra's selections or hate them, I want to see your comments. I want to see you chipping in about this, because we might not get this very often.
Well, can I just say there is a reason I host and I'm not a panelist, and that's because my opinions are notoriously dodgy at best. So
this is the segment for dodgy opinions, Barra. This is the segment for dodgy opinions.
Quite right. Right, we'll kick off with our heroes of the week, and age before beauty. Kick us off, Max. Who's your hero of the week?
Well, speaking of dodgy opinions, my hero of the week is Becky. She can't be with us tonight because her little daughter Brooke's not very well. She did
flown her in
all the way from prison. She did an amazing job under almost impossible circumstances, trying to corral the herd of cats. There was the Iron Hour podcast team at the charity game at Butler on Saturday. We had, I think it was 9 or 10 subs, I want to say. Don't get me wrong, Butler were fabulous hosts, but they clearly had concerns that the football wasn't going to be entertaining enough. Rightly so. So the tannoy was playing music on the PA system throughout the entire game. So if you were on that side of the pitch where the PA system was, you couldn't hear a bloody jot of what the bench was shouting. And look, what manager would tolerate that? Obviously, I know she's had Marco as her assistant at a couple of our charity games before, and he wasn't available. So, yeah, she did an impossible job very well. And especially when you've got mugs like me shouting at her during the game because we're all passionate, we all care. Yeah, a tough job. Very well done, I think, from Becky at the charity game on Saturday.
And just for anyone who's been following the England-Pakistan test, you'll know that the music in Multan has been questionable at best. The stadium DJ has been playing. It's been Oasis or Skyfall or Sophie Ellis-Bextor. And honestly, it was the exact same playlist we had on Saturday at Bottisford. It was Oasis or Sophie Ellis-Bextor all night. It was incredible. I think there's just like one generic playlist for all stadium PA systems.
Or I'm prepared to go with the conspiracy theory that the Pakistan Cricket Board were hiding in the stands down at Bottisford. They've grabbed the PA or his CD and gone, I know what we need.
Yeah, Max, CDs went out a long time ago, mate.
Yeah, but so did all of those tracks.
True, very true. Very true. Right, my hero of the week, I'm going to go for an Iron legend. My hero of the week is Russ Wilcox. So Gainsborough Trinity.
Ooh, great show.
Gainsborough Trinity winning 4-0 away at Boston in the FA Cup replay. And, you know, we have it on good authority. They should have won the first game, in fact, and was undone by some, well, weird decisions at best, shall we say. But they got over the line in the end, and not just over the line. They got over the line emphatically, 4-0. The man who still holds the world record for most games unbeaten at the start of a managerial stint with 28 games in charge, whilst he was in charge of the Iron. To win 4-0 is just absolutely insane against a team in the National League, no less.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. 2 divisions above them. I think I hadn't been following the game live and just saw the score of full time. And I think I posted in our podcast messenger group, fucking hell, has anybody seen the Gainsborough score? Absolutely incredible. You know, they were 2-1 after they beat Darlington in the round before at Darlington, already off the back of a brilliant result. But I think the way in which they conceded, what was it, a 97th minute equaliser at home to Boston in the original game, you thought, well, I think we all thought, oh, bugger, they'll get done at Boston in the replay now. To not just beat them, but to go down there and basically spank them. Yeah. I know the Boston fans are having a bit of a meltdown about it, you know, getting beat 4-0 at home in a cup replay by a side 2 divisions below you in the pyramid, that's rough. A phenomenal achievement. Russ is clearly doing a brilliant, brilliant job at Gainsborough. And I know we might come on to it a bit later, but they've got a brilliant chance now at getting into not just the first round, but the second round. Indeed. Because they were been drawn, is it away at Hednesford?
I think it was, actually. Let me just check that whilst you're talking.
I'm sure they've got Hednesford because people were expecting them to get Gateshead, but Gateshead then lost at home to Hednesford in the replay, who are 3 divisions below Gateshead. They're in the 8th tier. Hednesford are a division below Gainsborough. So it's an amazing opportunity for them to get into the second round, which would be an even crazier achievement. So, I know I wax lyrical about our gaffer, but the Gainsborough gaffer, what a week for us. He so deserves it.
Oh, absolutely. Right, we'll move on to Idiot of the Week, and I'll go first, and we'll stick with the FA Cup. So my idiots, plural, of the week are the TV broadcasters, BBC and ITV, on their selection for the FA Cup games. And look, there's one or two. I mean, Kettering Northampton is a good tie, and I'm glad that's been picked. But the absence of AFC Wimbledon versus MK Dons is just insane. I just cannot believe they've missed that one off the selection list. It just is incredible to me. And when you look at that list, you see Birmingham have made the cut just because it's Birmingham. You see Wrexham have made the cut just because it's Wrexham. It stinks to me. I'm really disappointed. Actually, I think it would have been a fantastic game.
So in a way, I could forgive the Birmingham one. They're away to Sutton, big banana skin potentially, but the picking Wrexham away at Harrogate,
correct?
I mean, that's just ridiculous. Like if it had been Wrexham away at Chester, different story. I could, at this stage of the competition, I love a game, an FA Cup game where you see that both sets of fans really care.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't understand, thinking back to 13-14, when we were away at Grimsby in the first round, I still don't understand why that wasn't one of the FA Cup games. I think they've got 5 that are going to be on TV for this coming round. Like, all right, the football game itself, when it was us Grimsby, was pretty rubbish. But, like, give me a game where everybody watching it really cares, where the atmosphere is great. It's such a bizarre, weird decision, and especially after all the issues they've had with the pitch, I think it's a massive shame for Wimbledon in particular.
And Max, who was your idiot of the week?
Well, I'm tempted to say you for not plugging the Ross Wilcox interview.
Go on, now's your chance.
Well, we've just waxed lyrical about Ross Wilcox being Barra's hero of the week, which I think was an excellent choice. And for anybody who hasn't yet had the chance to listen to the Scunny legend as both a player and a manager, we've done a phenomenal, and by we I mean Barra, done a phenomenal two-part interview. And Becky did a phenomenal 2-part interview with the man, touching on both his playing career and his career as a manager. It's on Spotify, it's on YouTube, it's on Apple, wherever you usually get your podcasts. Honestly, it's a really good watch, even for some of the younger Iron fans who maybe don't remember him as a player or even as a manager. Honestly, he's a great man. He's a proper Scunny legend. And check out our 2-part interview with Barra's hero of the week.
And your idiot of the week, Max, is?
I was a bit torn for this. There was a couple of contenders, but in the end, I feel obliged to go for Ronaldo. Look, don't get me wrong. He's either the greatest or probably the second greatest footballer ever to have played. But God, he does drive me up the wall sometimes. When they drew 0-0 away at Scotland at Hampden Park, Scotland actually, I thought, played pretty well in that game, better than some of their recent performances, especially defensively. But it was like watching an unhappy child in McDonald's because he didn't get the right toy in his Happy Meal. We always joke about, could he do it on a cold Wednesday night at Stoke? Not just Ronaldo, but whoever else. And clearly, he couldn't do it on a cold Wednesday night at Hampden. I just thought it was so ridiculous, as if he expects opposition sides to lay down their arms and wax lyrical about how amazing he is, even at 38. Just ridiculous. I hated it.
So not a fan?
Not based on that performance, no.
Good answer. I like it. Me and my eldest lad were actually looking at Ronaldo's figures earlier because he banded out this insane stat. He said, Ronaldo still got it. He scored almost 50 goals last season. I said, no, he didn't.
Wow.
I said, no, he didn't. Let's have a look. Mate, 45 goals in 44 games in all competitions last season.
Yeah, in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, but still, 45 goals. Don't say you would score 5. You wouldn't score any.
No, I've no doubt I wouldn't score any.
But it's that old pub talk, isn't it? How many goals would you get if you played at the top of Man City? None.
I'd score 15 in the SPL.
Even if you was on penalties, none.
look, if he was I've got more time for somebody like Andy Carroll, for example, who's having
rate that, yes.
Yeah, playing in the French 4th division for Bordeaux. We're a massive club, obviously just got bankrupt, reforming, playing in front of 15,000 every week. He was nearly my hero of the week. You know, that header that went viral on Twitter, and all you can hear is the commentators speaking lots of French, and then you just hear, "So British!" Honestly, I've got so much more time for that than I do going to, just going to the middle of the desert and pretending that it's La Liga or Premier League or even Serie A. No time for it, mate.
Okay, let's move on then to moment of the week. Max, what's your moment of the week?
A very poignant one, potentially. It was a statement put out, I believe, earlier today. We're recording this on Thursday evening, from Blythe Spartans, who were obviously in Scunny's league last season. I'm still bitter about that away game, but it is what it is. A massively historic, storied non-league club in a town that really needs and deserves a decent football team. But a statement saying that they currently weren't able to fulfil their fixture, ironically, against Russ Wilcox's Gainsborough this weekend, because they've had a number of resignations from their board and senior people at the club. They got taken over last season. They've been in seemingly incredibly difficult financial situation since. I think they've been put up for sale again. I just hope that it gets sorted. It's a reminder for me of how precarious football is at this level. You know, you're only ever one bad owner away, one bad situation, one crisis away from being really close to going out of existence. I know in our league there's still massive issues at Farsley Celtic, which I hope gets sorted. And yeah, it's not nice either. At this level, a really, really good, important club with a massive history in the FA Cup. Ironically, absolute giant killers, have been for a very long time. And yeah, it was a reminder that not everything is permanent. I just hope, and for their sake, that it does get sorted in the end. And yeah, very best of luck to Blythe fans.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, say good. I mean, poignant. It's incredible what's happening there, and everything that's gone on with was it Nobby Solano? They chucked in charge for a few games at the start of the season, which lasted about 2 weeks or something mental like that. It's never nice to see these experiments. People playing Football Manager with clubs. It is madness, man. It is madness. Right, my moment of the week is something that is, it's a bit close to my heart. I'm not going to lie, for various reasons. Now, I don't know so what do we call somebody who loves England? What are they, an Anglophile?
An Anglophile.
So what's somebody who loves Germany, a Saxophile?
Oh, nobody's going to get that reference. Well done. No, it's certainly in the English language, it's a Germanophile.
Okay, well that's what I am, as we all know. Yeah,
loves a bit of German sausage. Does our Barra?
You know me. I'll turn nothing down. So, so I'm a Germanophile, and obviously Gareth is something else. But my moment of the week. My moment of the week was Thomas Tuchel being appointed the England manager. Fantastic appointment for me for various reasons. The obvious one being, of all the possible candidates that were available, he quite clearly in my mind is top of the list. He's top of the tree. He's won absolutely everything in terms of major domestic honours, Champions League, Bundesliga, the Liga, and of course, for me, his biggest achievements were his success with Dortmund, right? The cups he won at Dortmund, incredible achievements. And obviously, the Champions League at Chelsea, got to be right up there. And when you talk about the style that you might get under a Tuchel, don't think he has a defined style. And I think that's what's so good about him. Yeah, you'll get the gegenpress, but also just so versatile. Every club he's been at, they've operated with different formation and different tactics, which I rate so much. Horses for courses has to be your identity in the modern game, in my opinion. But the take-home message for me is, and yes, I've seen the odd comment on Twitter and social media, but for me, how much we've come on that 15, 20 years ago would have been unheard of, the thought of a German man being manager of the English national side. But for me,
just to interject on that, so 15 years ago, what would have been 2009. So we've just sacked Steve McLaren.
Yeah.
I think
the Dutch manager.
Absolutely. When he stood there, the Wally with a brolly on the pissing sidelines, I'd have given my left knacker to have swapped with Slaven Bilic, who was obviously the Croatian manager at the time. In the pouring rain, the Croats had already qualified, screaming at his players, keep going, keep going. And we got the bloody twat who used to play midfield for Hull with his fucking latte. Anyway, that's my opinion about Steve McLaren.
Yeah, so for me, it just shows like how much we've come on as a country. I never thought I'd see it. I was speaking to many people about this. I never thought I'd see the day the German was in charge. I think it's amazing. I think we could learn a lot from the German game. I love German football, of course I do. Now, there's obviously the argument, and people will say it didn't end too well for him at Bayern. He resided over the first time Munich have not won the Bundesliga in 11 seasons. Of course that's true. But basically every managerial appointment ends in tears. And for me, I think I know how this is going to go for Tuchel with England. And I'm prepared to take the rough with this move. I think we'll win the lot, mate. I think we'll win the World Cup.
You think we're going to go to the States in 20 months' time or whatever it is, and you think we're gonna bring it home?
I think we will. I think we'll probably, just the way it's written, right? We'll end up knocking out Germany at some point, possibly even the final. But then, do you know what will happen after we've won the whole lot and we've got that second star on the shirt? Do you know what will happen then?
They'll build a fucking statue of him outside the German embassy.
The next Euros in 2028, which is largely a home tournament,
will be dog shit.
Yeah, we'll get knocked out the round of 16. It'll be public villain #1, losing at Wembley in the round of 16, possibly again against Germany, and it will all end in tears because that's what happens. But do you know what? I will take it to be world champions, and I'm sure you will too.
Of course we would. Yeah, of course we would. So I think it is really interesting. I think Tuchel's appointment is. I mean, I praised it on Twitter the other day. I think of the reasonably available candidates, he was the best one. Well, the FA clearly leaked the fact that they'd gone to speak to Guardiola, who perhaps unsurprisingly decided that he didn't want that millstone round his neck.
And Klopp.
Yes, and Klopp, who I am not surprised that he didn't want it. I am surprised, however, that he's decided to be Red Bull's head of soccer. I think he was my idiot of the week last week.
Yeah, I don't think that's his title. Red Bull's head of soccer. You couldn't have made it sound any more pseudo corporate nonsense, could you?
Correct. Absolutely. I think that has helped Tuchel. I think the fact that he's the men's national team's third foreign manager now after Ericsson and Capello. I mean, if you're playing like the World War II bingo for foreigners, you've gone neutrality, fascist but change sides halfway through. Now we're at the full fat German.
Well, the opposite of full fat. Can I just say he has 3 characteristics which I am in admiration of: successful, German, and thin.
Thin. I thought you were going to say big ears.
I landed that joke on my missus last night, and do you know what she said?
Fuck off.
You'll never be thin. I was like, no, German. I'll never be German, cat.
My punchline was going to be that I think the 4th English manager will end up being Japanese. But look, I think it's the best appointment they could have reasonably made. I think as well, I hope that Tuchel will be helped by the fact that, unlike Ericsson and Capello, he's managed an English club side before. There's been lots of stuff in the press, even the German press actually, about how Tuchel really enjoyed his time managing Chelsea, that he felt perhaps a little bit, quote unquote, appreciated more when he was Bayern manager. He was very often a lightning rod for the fact that Bayern weren't amazing all of the time.
Yeah, can I just interject there? Because you made a really good point, and possibly what people who don't absorb German football don't know, but he's actually not as highly regarded as he possibly is over here in Germany. And actually, and this might surprise people, because when you think of Germany, right, we have these lazy tropes. We think, authoritarian, successful, disciplined. and not very charismatic.
Anybody who's been on the German trains this summer at the Euros, I think has had at least a couple of stereotypes about Germany chucked out the window.
But actually, the charismatic element there, they're like us, right? Everyone's the same. They get drawn to big characters. Like, they love Klopp. They're absolutely, there wasn't until he took this pseudo corporate job, but they're obsessed with that big character, that flamboyantness. And actually, with Tuchel, he just doesn't seem to land. He's okay. He might be seen. I don't know what's the equivalent, like how Eddie Howe is. He's okay. Fans haven't taken to him massively. People are fairly indifferent towards him.
I think as well, obviously, the fact that he's managed both Dortmund and Bayern's a little bit unusual, perhaps perceived as a little bit of a gun for hire. Look, this is the England national job. I don't really give a toss. I would say as well, in terms of the women's team, the Lionesses, well, obviously, they've won a major trophy with a Dutch manager. And no, it wasn't Steve McLaren. So, look, I can understand up to a point people's point of views of this. Oh well, it's almost a bit like cheating. But if you actually look at the English Premier League, in terms of the nationality of the managers, it's completely different to any other major football league. You look at the Bundesliga; it's full of German managers. Look at La Liga; it's full of Spanish managers. It's the same with Serie A. It's the same with the French Ligue 1. It's the same in South America. I believe 3 out of the 20 managers in the Premier League are English. So it is a really thin pool for the FA to choose from. And look, this isn't Mike Bassett. We shouldn't be going out and getting the Norwich manager because he happens to be available and naked at the time. So it's certainly an appointment that I approve of. I think you're probably right, Barry. I think if it had been made immediately after Euro 96, it might have been a little bit more controversial. But
well, I mean, just a word on the articles. Some of the articles we've seen.
Fuck the Daily Mail. I think it's an absolutely outrageous attack that I think is. You see their back page headline where they really criticise it, and they criticise it without the humour. Like at least the Daily Mirror called him Der Kaiser Chief, which I thought that at least that was a funny gag. Like the fact that none of their journalists put their name to a massive attack, and I think there was a bit where they were basically lambasting the fact that they'd appointed a foreigner. But A, if he wins something for us, then they won't care. But B, they also then said, we might have made an exception for the great Pep Guardiola.
Yeah.
Well, that means you don't actually have principles then.
Yeah.
I would have more respect if somebody turned around and said, the manager should always be English, even if we do shit, that's a price we've got to pay. Like, I don't agree with that position, but I can respect it. Like, at least they're honest. Whereas, and if we're saying, it's the Germans, it's our big rivalries, we fought them in the war. Spain had a fascist dictatorship for much longer than the Germans did. The things that happened in the Spanish Civil War and Franco and Guernica and all that jazz. Like, I thought it was an outrageous piece of journalism. I mean, it was a ridiculous clickbait, xenophobic, dog whistling rubbish. I couldn't care if he sings the national anthem. I care if we win tons. I care if we win big games because actually he is now under a little bit of pressure. Look, if people want to say that Southgate's reign was a failure, I don't agree with that. But that's 2 finals, our best ever performance at any major tournament that was played on foreign soil ever. So the only way, by those standards, that Tuchel can be a success is by winning something. It's proved difficult for managers before. I don't know about you, Barry, but when you see really successful club managers move to international football, sometimes the clash of styles can be difficult. But I've seen quite a lot of interest in press that they think Tuchel might be more suited to international football in a weird sort of way. What do you think?
Absolutely. The reason I think that is when you look at the experience he's had, particularly at Bayern, and he's fallen out with the execs and stuff because of being forced to play players or signings happening behind his back. And actually, he has this kind of, he does have this characteristic where he will fall out with people. It's inevitable. You can't avoid that. But actually, you can't see that happening in the international setup. I cannot see the FA turning around to him and saying, come what may, you need to play Pickford. Or Trippier plays every game. Like, it's just not going to happen. He will have free reign to pick whichever Englishman he wants.
Well, we're not going to be signing players behind his back, are you? Like,
correct.
At Chelsea, great example of that. He had a really good working relationship, ironically, with Roman Abramovich. Did a really good job there, won the Champions League. But then, lo and behold, when Todd Bowley and his American fund capital clowns come in and they're signing players left, right, and centre, he fell out with them. There does seem to be a bit of a pattern of him sometimes falling out with the people above him. I haven't really seen much stuff about him falling out with players. I know he can be quite an intense character, but in a way, international management is a bit easier for that. You're not dealing with players and the same manager or the same staff every day in, every day out. It's just a camp, and then you go back in a couple of months or what have you. But even at Bayern, you look at Kane's record under Tuchel at Bayern, and it's absolutely brilliant. So if he can still get the best out of him, I'm hoping that's going to be a really good sign.
Well said. Right, we'll wrap it up there for today's Iron Hour podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you on Saturday at Chester. Up the Iron.
Up the Iron.
Up the Iron Hour podcast.